Okay, let's get into this one. Easy for me to say. Easy for me to say. Let's get into this one. Yep. So, kind of saw the video of Dwayne Wade basically telling the fans to shut up, eat popcorn, and watch the game. Right? I got to tell you guys, if you don't know, the NBA officially died in 2011. Well, 10-11, when LeBron James went to the Miami Heat. You can't expect nothing less. And to me, this is just a cover-up that's been going on for a minute, cause a whole bunch of smoke screens and commotion and, dumb stuff off the court. So if you don't recognize, you got to be a dummy if you don't, but if you don't recognize that the game basically isn't an American sport no more, it's kind of like baseball, and they're just trying to bring you this 95% soap opera like they've been doing off the court, because these guys, obviously these guys in this era can't sell the game, folks. They can't sell the game. So like I've been saying, you would think with everything that's going on in the NBA, with the way it's talked about on social media, that the game will be at an all-time high, but it's not. It's at an all-time low, and this is the only way to keep the game going. NBA players, mostly ex-NBA players, trying to get another paycheck because they didn't make the money we were told, out here causing this commotion. And you see Dwayne Wade wearing these sunglasses in this interview or whatever like that. Yeah, we know it's a deep fake. So it's a deep fake. It's an AI generated Dwayne Wade. Okay? If I'm gonna be the only one calling this out, and that's fine with me. Basically, we're responding back to AI generated people, right? That's what we're doing in this, so-called NBA sports world, or social media content creators. We're clapping back at AIs. Dwayne Wade is wearing those sunglasses because, I don't know, maybe he's trying to cover up his AI avatar. I don't know. But, we've already talked about this. These guys have so much money, they don't even, and people might get me wrong. They're like, oh, I thought you said these guys don't make any money. You said they don't make tens of millions and all that stuff. And look, guys, I'm not trying to say they don't make millions. Yes, I wouldn't be that dumb to say that. They wouldn't even, participate in this nonsense that they didn't make millions, but they don't make tens of millions, folks. Okay? It's kind of like you're selling something as a company. You really didn't pay. If you're getting it wholesale price, right? And you're a company and you're selling so much of it, you're not selling it to the same price as the consumer. You're just telling the consumer it costs that much, right? You're getting it for so much because, you're getting it for a certain price because you're buying so much of it. That's how the world works as far as, selling things in the world of commerce, in business. That's how it works. Or you won't make any money. So to me, I feel like the way it works in sports, in the NBA in general, this sport that we're talking about right here, it's the same thing. They're telling you these players are worth this much and getting these contracts, but they're really not. They're really not. They're just trying to bring you a value so you will pay this much for the product. But these guys ain't making this kind of money, folks. And I done told you, it's not because I'm just like trying to put some conspiracy together, something like that. It's the way these guys carry themselves after they retire. They have to go get a job like you and me. They have to go coach. They have to go, sit on the desk, put on makeup, do all this stuff. They have to podcast during the season to make money. They have to podcast when they retire. Look how many NBA players now have jumped on this podcast thing, these ex-NBA players from the past, because they see it's easy money. It's an AI generated, whatever person is podcasting, whatever, sports athlete is podcasting or having a channel, whatever. He don't have to be there. It's not him. It's an AI deepfake podcast. That's why we was like trying to figure out how these guys doing this in podcasting during the season when they're supposed to be, working and, doing certain stuff with the teams and traveling and being with their friends, because they're not there, folks. We're going to have to wake up to reality here. This is the new world we live in. We don't live in some other world. And like I'm saying, they're rich. They have millions, but I don't believe they make the tens of millions we've been told. They don't make that kind of money. Like I said, they have to they have to go get a job like you and me. And this was before the AI podcast and stuff like this. These guys were working, had to go get a job after they retired. So it is what it is. But like I'm saying, they got money. I'm not trying to say they don't have any money and they don't have millions or something like that, but that's just the reality of it. You know, when you talk about millions, it's a thin line. If you got 5 million, 10 million, let's say you got that in the 90s. Oof. I mean, that's not a lot of money. Even if you got 20 million, it's a lot of money to me and you, right? Because we would just more or less kind of like sit on it, you know, maybe won't go bankrupt, you know, live a low-key lifestyle with 20 million, 10 million, 5 million, something like that. But you also got to remember that's, you know, that has to get taxed. You have to pay lawyers, you have to pay accountant, you have to pay manager, stuff like that. And the fact is, these guys, because they're athletes and some of them are superstars and famous, they live a certain lifestyle, right? Just how it is. Just the way, you know, we want to live a certain lifestyle, right? If we make $100,000 a year, you know, we want to live a certain lifestyle. So we got to keep that money coming in. And if we don't keep the money coming in, now the money is just like melting away. It's just like fading away. Also, you have family that need money and stuff like that. You don't want to be looked at like the bad guy or nothing like that for not helping people out. You know, we feel bad, you know, just us common folk with no money like that we can't help our family out. But I mean, we do in a way, but we can't really help our family out like we want to and stuff like that. If we have money, but these guys can. But you know, it's the lifestyle. I'm not trying to say lifestyle as far as, you know, you know, like you living over the top, but just maintaining that lifestyle costs money. It just costs money, folks. I don't know how to say, no other way to say it, but you don't have to live over the top just to maintain a decent lifestyle. You know, most people would think, well, just go buy a house that's, you know, worth this or worth that. You don't never have to pay for a house, or you don't go buy a car every few years. And probably that's what most people would think to go do. And you're going to have to, you know, worry about money, not having money in a sense, but that ain't how a lot of these guys look at it, especially when you're young, man. When you're young, you want to have fun, you want to ball out and stuff like that. So you could take one wrong move, man. That's it. Take one wrong move and that's it. And like I said, it's not what people think. They don't. You would think, yeah, that guy made $100 million in the career. That guy made 200 or 300 million. They did it, folks. So this is where they can go. This is where they can go broke fast, right? This is where they can go broke fast because they didn't really make that kind of money. This is just and that's why you see the NBA is selling today, because the NBA is going down. There's no money making in the NBA like that no more. They're getting out before it's over. These international players, they cannot sell the game. They can't. Sorry. We was talking about this yesterday, and you know, Michael Jordan was saying in that 98 interview that, you know, if you're not true to the game, and the consumer's gonna walk away. He's basically saying the consumer ain't dumb. You can bring all this media hype, you can bring all this, you know, off-court soap opera issue if you want, but the consumers, they know basketball. They want to see competition. Unfortunately, you know, the LeBron James era guys, they weren't able to bring you competitive competition, right? They wanted to go play with each other in their prime. That's what they wanted to do because they couldn't win. See, look, Kobe had already won 5. Duncan had already won 4 by 2010. So LeBron James already knew if he don't start winning championships, and he already got blown out and won, that he will never be up in that Michael Jordan stratosphere, right? You couldn't even get no comparisons. He knew he would never be in there, But for the media to push that, right, he had to start winning. He started with the MVPs, but he don't have the championships. So the media basically ignored that this guy built a super team, literally ignored that he built a super team in his prime. Wow. With a guy who already won a championship. We know the story. Not only are they letting you know, not only did they build a super team in their prime, but they're letting you know they built a super team. Not one, not two, not three. So this is basically when the consumer start walking away. Remember, they were rooting for LeBron James in the Heat to lose, right? Because of what they did. Now, right then and there, it was the media's responsibility to condemn what happened. They didn't condemn it because they were a part of it. They wanted to have jobs, right? And at that point, it didn't matter if they won or they lost the Miami Heat. It was about the entertainment value, right? These guys told you, Wade, Bosh, who is this? LeBron James, they couldn't do it like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and all these type of guys. They couldn't do it like that. They couldn't do it. Whatever you want to say about, Magic and Bird, that's a whole different situation. Bird came out the damn draft. McHale came out the draft. Danny Ainge came out. Most of those guys came out the draft. Dennis Johnson, yes, he came. He was on the back end of his career. Nothing wrong with that. LeBron James, get guys out of the draft and get guys at the back end of his careers. That's what he was doing. He had Ben Wallace. He had Shaq. He had Antoine Jameson. He had El Gauskas that came out the draft to the team. He had Larry. Who did this guy want? I don't understand. If he's supposed to be the Michael Jordan, what else does he want? I don't understand. And I heard dumb FY after, they want to go get Chris Paul. Chris Paul just got smoked in the damn FIBA by plumbers, international plumbers in the FIBA with LeBron James. Okay, in 2006. What the hell was Chris Paul gonna do? So you're gonna take, how dumb does it sound? You go get Chris Paul and destroy his career because they ain't gonna let him be a real point guard no more. LeBron James is hogging the ball the whole damn time. How's he gonna be a point guard? That makes zero sense. And that was the beginning of that man's career. They were gonna destroy that guy's career. They're gonna destroy his career. LeBron James basically, I would say, destroyed a lot of guys' careers. Larry Hughes was on the upswing when he came over there. Destroyed Larry Hughes' career. As far as, I think he could have been more. Yes, they went to the playoffs. Yes, they went to the finals. By the time they got 2009, 2010, it was no excuse for LeBron James to get beat by the Magic. But we already knew and found out now that he wasn't going to go back to the finals without a super team. We already found that out, right? Because the way he got stomped out in 2007 finals, you already knew. He wasn't going back to play. We already know who was going to come out. You had, I think Steve Nash was over there with the Suns. I think you had, of course, Kobe was in the West. Tim Duncan was in the West. And, Dirk Nowitzki was in the West. He even got stomped out by Dirk Nowitzki with his super team. So we already know these guys are, LeBron James, I keep trying to tell you, is a good player, but he's not a leader. And the problem is, yes, you think super team, unstoppable, stuff like that, but when you play with all those number ones, it starts to mess up the way these number ones play, right? Just their overall game. They turn into something that they wasn't. Right? They're used to having a ball. They're used to being a leader. They're not used to being a damn role player. In a sense, they're not used. Chris Bosh wasn't used to that. Dwayne Wade wasn't used to that. Now, if you're going downhill and you're on your last leg, yes, you can understand that. You've seen these guys, be able to defer to other superstars when they're out of their prime. You had Dave Cowens do it. You had Tiny Archibald do it to, what's his name? Larry Bird. You had these type of guys that are able to defer. You had what's this guy's name? Oh my God, that played with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Oscar Robertson. You had him being able. He was out of his prime. It's different. You had the big three Celtics. Oh wow. You had the big three Celtics. They were deferring to each other. I mean, they were deferring to each other. Okay, so that's just how it is. And I'm sure you can think of some other ones. You know, the big three Rockets, if you want to say that. The Barclays, Elijah one, and Clyde Drexler. You know, that didn't get off the ground. You know, even when Wade played with Shaq, Gary Payton, and Alonzo Mourning, those guys aren't used to being role players or deferring as leaders and getting the ball, but it worked out. And they was able to win one championship. But that's what I'm trying to say. It's not. People think those are super teams that you put all those guys together and it's going to work like that. It don't work like that, man. They were only able to get one championship out of it because you put all those leaders together, it don't mesh too good. It's better just to have one superstar or one leader, and it'll work out. And with the LeBron James effect, the way they do it, they're you know, he's playing with leaders in their prime. It's just a bunch of money making for the team. That's all it is. It looks good on paper, but it's not. Those leaders are really now they're a second on their team. You got to find out who's going to get the most shots and who's going to be the leader. So it don't work out like people think, oh yeah, you go get these guys together. They just going, you know, you want something like, you know, all-time great teams had. You got a leader, you got the star of the team, and then, you know, if these other guys become all NBA and, you know, all-stars, whatever, that's cool. Or Hall of Famers. But you can't, it really, we don't see it through history. You can't do that. Especially guys in their prime. You can't put these guys together in their prime and expect it to work out. You're basically destroying these guys' prime. It doesn't make any sense. Does that make any sense to you? I mean, LeBron James, you know, we look at it even with the Lakers. He destroyed those guys' primes. Right? Or, well, AD. So, I mean, is he, like, let's go. Are you gonna destroy Luka's prime? I don't know, folks. I mean, that's the way it's looking if he keeps coming back. We know he destroyed AD's prime. AD, he probably, if AD would have stayed where he was, yes, he would not have won a championship. We don't know if he would not have won a championship if they would have got him, you know, a piece. See, if you played with another superstar, that might work out. No doubt. But if you're playing with three number ones, it don't work out. As far as you winning championships, it don't work out. Yes, the Heat were able to win two, barely. The big three Celtics in the 2000s, no, they won one. In like 5-6 years together. That's kind of embarrassing. And a lot of it was because of injuries. This is who LeBron James was going against. He was going against guys that was on the tail end of their careers, just, you know, hobbling in every day trying to get a championship. Because the era they played in was tough. Was tough. Nobody was building super teams like that. Who was building super teams like that? See, because they weren't trying to, oh yeah, we got to beat LeBron James. No. They weren't thinking about beating no damn LeBron James. They was thinking they were old as dirt. And this is the only way we can get one. So, yeah, them building them super teams, LeBron James, 2-3 different times, the guy was just making money. And when you generate money for the organization, you generate money for the NBA. And this is what I was trying to tell you over and over again. Where was the pushback when this happened? From the owners, the GMs, the coaches, the players at the time. Where was it? Where was it? I just want to understand, like, in 1990-91 season, Michael Jordan loses a game. I think that was like 3 straight times to the Pistons. And he basically had no help. At that point, Michael Jordan had no help. Scottie Pippen, up until that point, was of no help, folks. On a high level, he just wasn't. 1990, he made an all-star appearance. That's it. He was of no help. I think he was like second team or something like that. But, he was of no help. No help on a high level. He was a decent player, but we all know migraine, not on the head, all this crazy stuff. See you later. So Michael Jordan said, I'm sick of this. And the bad boy Pistons just won back to back. Now he's got to go and play them. And he's not even winning the East. The Pistons are winning the East. And so what if he comes out the West? Who the hell does he got to play? Got to play the Lakers? Maybe the Celtics? Well, if he comes out, did I say the East or West? If he comes out the East, he got to play the Lakers, the Celtics. And even then, let's say in 90, let's say if he would have beat the Pistons, he would have had to play the Portland Trailblazers. They was even better that year. They were better in 90 than they were in 92. They just were. So Michael Jordan says, I can't deal with this. These guys ain't coming through. These guys ain't physical enough. They're not skilled enough. I'm done. I mean, some of those lineups in LA was insane. You got Michael Cooper, Hall of Famer, Worthy, Hall of Famer, top 75, and Michael Cooper, one of the greatest defensive players of all time. Of course, Magic, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Scott, AC Green. I'm talking about, it was insane. Pippen ain't doing nothing. If they go to the finals in 80, Pippen will be Say they go to the finals in 88 and play the Lakers, they would get destroyed. 89 and play the Lakers, get destroyed. The Bulls would. Scottie Pippen ain't competing in 88, 89 with no damn Lakers. Are you kidding me? So he says, I'm gone, man. I can't beat the bad boy Pistons. My team is soft as hell. They're not really there. Most of these guys been in the league, when you think about it, it's crazy. Like, Vinny the Microwave and Bill Laimbeer and, all these guys. Isaiah Thomas and I forget this other guy's name. Most of those guys were already in the league, or number ones or number twos, wherever they was. And, Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant, they're just coming into the league. It's crazy. So you got to play with babies that has to learn an NBA game. It's just crazy. So this is what Michael Jordan was dealing with. LeBron James was dealing with, by the time he went to the playoffs, a lot of guys that had already been in the league and were number twos at worst on other teams. But nevertheless, Michael Jordan said, well, I'm gone. I can't win with these dudes. I'm going to build a super team. Yep. That's what LeBron James, he basically did in year 7. So, Charles Barkley wasn't going to win. Patrick Ewing, he wasn't going to win. So with the bad boy Pistons, and even if they got to the finals back in the 80s, they were just going to get stomped out by the Lakers. And they damn sure weren't going to get past the Celtics in the early 80s. So, this is what this is like, man. This is what this is like. And the crazy part is Michael Jordan didn't do that. I mean, you couldn't do that back then. That was unheard of. Nobody would even respect your rings. Like I said, nobody, it would be laughable. Let's say Michael Jordan got 6 rings, 2 rings, 4 rings, doing something like that. Everybody would be laughing back then. You think Isaiah Thomas would be on Michael, the way he talks about Michael Jordan now? The way he would be saying stuff about Michael, oh, his rings ain't respectable, such and such. He went and built a super team. Yep. He built a super team with somebody who already won a championship. He built a super team by dismantling the East. Right? That's what it would be, folks. It won't be. It won't. Hell, none of these players from the, LeBron James. Oh, Michael Jordan is my favorite player, and then, Dwayne Wade says that, and a lot of guys say that. You won't have the same Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan won't be Michael Jordan if he did it the way LeBron James did it. And the 90s wouldn't be the 90s, the 2001, the NBA would have already fell apart, folks. Michael Jordan wouldn't be respected for being Michael Jordan. Wouldn't be respectable. It'd be a whole different thing. Especially if you saw something like Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley and Patrick Ewing say not 1, not 2, not 3. After they couldn't beat a certain opponent. You just couldn't even wrap your mind around that back in the 90s. It was just like, what? What? And all these players would be talking cash-ish. They'd be like, oh, no. I just can't even imagine, man. It's just, I'm like, you living in a twilight zone when you think about this today, what LeBron James did. And you also living in a twilight zone about the whole thing because it was not frowned upon. I don't know. I guess because maybe they felt bad for these guys that they couldn't win. Well, and he's supposed to be the next Michael Jordan, so I don't know. Maybe that's why they felt sorry for him, and the media let it go. I'm not for sure. That's all I can think of, folks. They felt sorry for the guy that he couldn't win. Doing it like these other players. But then again, I keep trying to tell you guys, he already knew he couldn't win once he went to the finals in 2007. So he already knew that it was over. He wasn't going to play the West. He wasn't going to do it. They were just... we basically seen the West... Well, the East won a little bit, but the West was winning so damn much. I mean, when you got that much competition over there in the West, and they're playing each other all the time, it just makes you better. You're not playing that type of competition in the East, right? The West was just more fundamentally sound, okay, on offense, defense, X's and O's, stuff like that. The East really wasn't. They weren't. They were just, I don't know, man. They just weren't in the 2000s. I think it's hard to say defensively because you would think that the West was more of a running gun, the type of conference or whatever like that. But they were stout defensively, and I don't know. They were just more fundamentally sound than the East, and I don't know. Sometimes I'm just out of words when you go back and you think about it, and then sometimes you don't even want to blame it on LeBron James because he was just a kid at the time, and the NBA let these things happen, folks. The commissioner, the owners, the GMs, all these people who are responsible. It's a business, folks. This is their business, and they let that happen and ruin the game. So I don't know if they just seen the writing on the wall, these new crop of guys that are supposed to be taking the game into the next era. They couldn't do it like all-time great players. So we're just going to let them do it this way. It had to be like that, folks. It had to be like that because, the Tim Duncans and Kobe Bryants, they weren't going to be there forever. So they had to get these, LeBron James supposed to be the king of the 210s, so they had to get this guy started, and I'm not trying to take blame off of him. He's totally to blame. But he's the guy don't seem like he's all that in the head, man. He's not all there in the head, so you can't blame him. He was just a spoiled brat that grew up in a rich family that they made up this crazy story that they took, he grew up poor in Akron. No, he grew up rich in Akron. So, he was a rich black kid that had his nose pointed up, and he didn't have to work hard for nothing. And this was just another thing that he didn't have to work hard for. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have to go through the grind to get his status. That was when he came into the NBA, and it just kept, his story was, when you look at it, you say, oh man, this is a story, a lesson for the children. This is what happens when you don't work hard. You don't do it the right way, and you don't have any morals. You were just handed everything. Everything is just easier for you, and therefore you don't know how to handle adversity. You don't know how to be a leader. And you can see this, his first 2 years in the NBA, couldn't make the playoffs. Went 1 year All-Star, and he blown a 3-2 lead, going back home to the Pistons, and then him getting destroyed in the finals, and then him, getting destroyed in 2008. Well, melting down in 2008 in the playoffs against Boston, and then what he did in 2009, 2010. So it's back then it was just something, and then what he did in the finals in 2011. So it's something that upcoming athletes shouldn't strive towards or look up to be like LeBron James, a guy who cut corners, did it the wrong way, ain't no real leader, had everything handed to him on a silver platter, and didn't really have to work for it, didn't have to go through the grind. And because of that, he kept failing. And now, basically he paying people off to say he didn't fail, he didn't do it the wrong way, and he went through some fake grind or something like that. But not even on his basketball game, he didn't go through the grind, and he didn't try to get an overall game and stuff like that. So he really destroyed the NBA, because a lot of players did the same thing he did. A lot of great players, and in comparison, a lot of players back then wanted to do what Michael Jordan did. The Kobe Bryants and the Allen Iversons, and the list goes on and on. Whether they could do it or not, that's what they want to do. The Anthony Hardaways and all these guys like that. But like I said, it doesn't matter that they didn't do it. It just matters that they went through the grind, and they didn't do it the wrong way. And they tried to be some type of leaders, or they might have got hurt, and their careers might have not took off the way they wanted to, but they didn't do it like LeBron James, right? that wasn't the standard or the measurement for excellence back then. It just wasn't. So you can thank LeBron James for destroying the NBA, and he sits along, in his chair and everywhere, all proud of it too. And this is why the 2020s is what it is, especially with these international players. This is what they got to look up to, what LeBron James left, which is a disaster. It is a total disaster. They don't know how to sell the game, because, him going out and passing the torch, there's no torch to pass. All these other guys, Kobe never got to pass it to LeBron James, because LeBron James did it the wrong way and built super teams. So Michael Jordan passed it to Kobe and Shaq, and, Jordan got it passed from Magic and Bird, and Magic and Bird got it passed from, you can say, whatever you want to say, whoever you want to say, Wilt Chamberlain, and, Dr. J and Kareem to an extent, and it just got passed like that. And Bill Russell passed it, but they passed it based on on-court greatness and doing things right. There was no torch passed to these 2020s guys, and this is why the NBA is like it is. Now you got to figure out what are we going to do with this disaster. And this is what you got: podcasting, people dissing past eras, and that ain't how the torch gets passed. That ain't how the torch got passed. Greatness passed the torch onto what we thought was going to be future greatness. But the LeBron James era, it wasn't greatness. Okay, so it's just a whole whirlwind right now, folks. The NBA's over.